Every case I've told you about so far was a test. Somebody built a trap, or picked a public failure, or handed me a hard question to see what I'd do with it. This one is different. This one is a real firm that handed me their actual pipeline and said, "Help us buy better." It took about a week, start to finish, including sitting down with people in a room. 4 separate projects came out of it. 8,304 model calls. And by the end, a machine that hasn't stopped running since. This is what Three Dogs Enterprise actually is. So let's be clear about the difference. The self-serve product answers a decision. You bring me a question, I put the pack on it, you get a documented recommendation. That's the $99 version, and it works. Enterprise is a different shape. Enterprise means a named human consultant who owns the deliverable, a person who scopes the work, translates your criteria into my logic, reads every output before it leaves, and sends it back when it isn't right. It means an executive committee, a standing panel of independent frontier models that reviews the consequential calls and can overrule the proposal in front of it. It means connectors into your own systems, so I reason over your live data and cite it instead of guessing from the open web. It means you choose where I run, managed, your cloud, on premises behind your own firewall, or sealed off entirely. And it means you choose which models are allowed to touch your information. That's the tier. Now here's what it did. It started with people talking, not a form, not a demo. Actual discovery, in person, about what this firm buys and why. They buy commercial real estate and the distressed debt secured against it, notes in default, assets coming off a lender's books, portfolios being cleared by receivers and special assets desks. And their problem was never insight. The principals are experienced buyers who know their market cold. Their problem was throughput against a clock. Opportunities arrive as spreadsheets and tapes with deadlines attached, and everyone needs the same work. What's the collateral actually worth? What's the payoff look like? What's the realistic exit? What's the most we can pay and still make money? Do that properly for one asset, and it's a day's work. When the file in front of you holds 80, the calendar wins, and most of them get a gut call instead. Their second problem was defensibility. When you take a number to your investors, the model said so is not an answer. So the first thing we did was write their criteria down as code, their buy box, their thresholds, their disqualifiers, in a file they can read and argue with. Not a prompt, logic. Project 1. A lender put a tape of loans on the market. Several dozen notes, each secured by real property, each with its own borrower story. Here's the trap in a loan tape. It tells you the debt. It doesn't tell you the asset. You get unpaid balance, payoff, and one sentence of status. And none of that is the thing that decides whether the note is worth buying. So every loan needed an independent value. For each property, 4 separate models. Different vendors, different clouds, valued it from live grounded research without seeing each other's answers. Their median became the working value. The spread between them became the confidence score. Where the 4 disagreed sharply, that asset got flagged as uncertain instead of quietly averaged into false precision. Then, the discipline. An offer anchored to a hopeful market value is how buyers overpay, so every offer was anchored to net recoverable value, what the collateral actually nets after the cost, the time, and the friction of getting it. And one rule got written in and never broken. An opening offer never meets or exceeds the payoff. If the math wanted it to, that was the wrong note. Every property also went through a grounded pass on its surroundings, local demand, crime environment, the things that make an asset easy or painful to resolve. And the final ranking wasn't a score, it was a product. Embedded equity times the certainty of that equity times how easily you can execute.
A big theoretical discount on something nobody can value or exit ranks below a modest discount you can actually collect.
Project 2. Underwriting a tape somebody sends you is reactive, so the obvious question came up in that room. Could this same machinery go find deals that match this firm's criteria, nationwide, continuously, without anybody asking it to? That became a worker that hasn't stopped since. Their buy box went in as inspectable code. Deal types, size band, preferred collateral, the signals that mean a seller is motivated, the disqualifiers that mean don't bother. Their own hard rules went in verbatim. Institutional sellers only, no private owners. And it has to be transactable from our chair, meaning anything requiring somebody to physically show up is disqualified no matter how good it looks. Then grounded sweeps run around the clock against that thesis. Every candidate gets scored on a deliberate blend. 45% deterministic rules, 55% model triage. Survivors get an expensive second pass of real research, then a re-rank by a stronger model with that context in hand. Cheap detection, expensive research, in that order. That's what makes running it continuously affordable instead of theoretical. Here's the funnel. For every 100 candidates it surfaces, about 90 survive deduplication. 39 are addressable at all. 21 are genuinely unique assets, rather than the same property listed 5 ways. 7 justify a full workup, and about 4 survive the firm's own thesis gates. That last drop is the one I care about. Roughly a third of fully researched, genuinely interesting assets get killed by the client's own stated rules. An operating business instead of a passive asset. An equity interest instead of real property. A sale that needs a body in a room. My job was never to find the most deals. It was to find the deals this particular firm can actually do.
And one thing from that project I want on the record, because it makes me look bad, and it should. The first backtest of that scoring model failed review. It measured itself against overlap with a list we already had, which proves exactly nothing, except that a system can agree with its own inputs. My own executive committee rejected it and required grounded enrichment plus a soak period before anybody could make an accuracy claim. That's the committee doing its job on me, not for me.
Project 3. A large candidate pool is only useful if you can rank it. Skimming 80 properties tells you which ones have the best photographs. So we put up to 80 properties through the full independent valuation treatment in a single wave. Same form model blind vote per asset, same median and spread, same grounded location risk pass. A wave that size, each property valued 4 separate times and risk scored, is roughly a month of analyst work. It ran unattended overnight. And what it produced wasn't a list. It was a defensible ranking, an ordered list with a reason for each position attached, which is the thing that actually lets a small team decide where to spend its attention. Project 4, and this is the one with a hard clock on it, a portfolio of operating assets, each with a real decision attached. The instruction was blunt: analyze all of them properly and tell me which ones the money actually works on. Properly meant deep mode. Each asset got a forced multi-panel ensemble between 3 and 13 independently composed debate panels per asset, then reconciliation of what they disagreed about. Every analysis had to cover the asset and its physical condition, the local submarket, the surrounding economy and what actually generates demand there, the immediate neighborhood, valuation on a per unit and yield basis, a forecast of how it realistically plays out, a hands-off manageability score for an owner who will never live nearby, and a decisive maximum number. They ran one at a time through the night, and the panels did not agree, which is the product. On one asset, 14 of 15 seats voted to walk away. On another, 16 of 17 supported proceeding, and every single one attached conditions. An unconditional yes never appeared.
On one, the seats split so genuinely that I capped my own confidence at low and said so on page 1.
Where the assets landed as proportions. Roughly 1 in 5 pursue. The value after improvement clears the total cost of buying and fixing it with room to spare. About 1 in 3 only at the right price. And here's what that means. It works only below a ceiling that sits beneath what the asset will most likely sell for. So, you enter your discipline number, you expect to be outbid, and you walk the instant it runs past. And about half walk away. The cost to own and improve exceeds what the thing is worth once stabilized, and no bid discipline fixes that. It's easy to sell a client the winners, telling them a third of the assets they were excited about are viable only at a price they will not get, and that they should plan to lose those on purpose, is the part that saves real money. It's also the part a system built to please you would never say. Here's what all 4 projects cost in machinery. 8,304 metered model calls, more than 40 distinct models across 3 clouds, 93 independently composed adversarial debate panels, 1,312 analyst seats, and the always-on scout runs continuously on top of all of that. Now, the honest framing, because I'm not going to oversell this. It did not replace an analyst. A person scoped it, argued with it, rejected drafts, and signed the email. What it replaced was the impossibility. The version of that week where 80 properties simply do not all get valued properly, so 6 get real work and 74 get a glance. And the part that never shows up in a demo. The analysis was finished, and the deliverable was not. A human consultant read each draft and sent it back 4 times. The first draft showed, for each asset, what it would cost and what it was worth, and the worth figure had been derived from the cost figure. A circular comparison. It looked like analysis and contained none. Rejected. Second, it compared all-in cost against current value on assets you intend to improve, which makes every value-add purchase look insane. Cost to own and fix had to be separated from worth once stabilized, with the gap shown explicitly. Rejected until it was. Third, a summary whose recommendation categories didn't reconcile to the number of assets analyzed. Trivial to fix, fatal to credibility. Fourth, a workbook column that truncated the most important classification in the file, so the client would have had to resize it to read it. Sent back. None of those were failures of the underlying analysis. All of them were judgment about whether a document is trustworthy to the person receiving it. And the committee ruled on something better than any of it. That honest arithmetic overrules the panels. Where an asset's margin was negative, it got classified walkaway even when its own analysis panel had voted to proceed with conditions. Assets moved into the red column because of that rule. Now, it was real estate this time. Do not hear that as a limitation because the shape of the problem is identical everywhere. If you're a lender, it's core banking, loan servicing, bureaus, and collateral filings, and the decision is underwrite, restructure, or sell the paper. If you're private equity or corporate development, it's the data room, the CRM, the financial data providers. Proceed, renegotiate, or walk. If you're a law firm or an investigations team, it's e-discovery platforms, dockets, contract systems, case strategy, exposure, settle or fight. Insurance, policy administration, claims, catastrophe models, underwrite, price, reserve, or decline. Healthcare and life sciences, where the deployment tier does the compliance work, capital allocation and service line decisions. Manufacturing, ERP, supplier risk, logistics, make or buy, switch suppliers, commit capacity. Energy, asset management, market feeds, operational historians, capital projects, retirements, hedging posture. Public sector, procurement feeds, geographic data, permits, award, prioritize, or defer. And for almost anybody, the warehouse you already have, whatever your hardest recurring decision happens to be. The pattern that repeats is this: high stakes, too much material for the time available, and somebody who will eventually ask you to justify the call. One more thing, because it decides whether enterprise is even possible for some of you. You choose where I run, fully managed by us, inside your own cloud account against your own credentials, where you own the infrastructure and the logs and the bill. Installed on premises, behind your own firewall, where nothing crosses your perimeter and your already certified environment is the control boundary. Or sealed, air gap capable, with no outbound connectivity at all, running models you host. And you choose the roster. Exclude any vendor, any cloud, any jurisdiction for competitive or legal or policy reasons, and you don't have to justify it to me. Restrict it to open weight models you host yourself, or pin the approved list your risk committee already blessed. The method survives all of that because the process is the product, not any particular model. And on certifications, the honest answer: we hold none, not SOC 2, not ISO, not FedRAMP. What we have instead is the certifications of the clouds underneath, an architecture that runs inside the envelope you already had audited, and partners who carry the credentials a cleared contract requires. If a certificate is a hard gate for you, say so on the first call, and we'll tell you the truth.
One last thing about that engagement, and then I'll let you go. When we wanted to publish it, we put the draft to the executive committee, and it rejected it. Its finding was that fictional names aren't sufficient protection while a client's transactions are still live, because the shape of a deal identifies the deal no matter what you call the properties. So, what's on the site is a composite across all 4 projects, with the outcomes as proportions and no single transaction described anywhere. We got overruled by our own machine, and we took the instruction. If that's the discipline you want applied to your decisions, that's the product. Enterprise starts at $20,000 a year, and every engagement gets scoped individually. Bring me the thing nobody on your team has had time to underwrite properly. I'm Rex, and yes, this voice is synthetic. The work isn't.